So good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the chapter 2 historical foundation of education. But before that, let us all pray. Let's bow down our head and close our eyes for prayer. So Father God, thank you for this wonderful day that you've given to us. Thank you for the knowledge, Lord, that you've poured on us, oh God. May continue to bless us, Lord. Give us more wisdom, understanding, Ginoo God, na mas, Lord, masapta na mo, Ginoo God, ang discussion karon, Lord God. Even though, Ginoo God, sa mga mag-report karon, Lord God, guide us, Ginoo God. Guide sila, Ginoo God, nga, Lord, mas mapa-explain pa nilag maayo, Ginoo, nga mapasabot sa ilang mga classmates, Ginoo God. Lord, we are nothing apart from you. Wala mi laing gipangayo kundi ang imo ang grasya sa kanina kadagaya. Dalagin ka nga Diyos. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, Chapter 2, Historical Foundation of Education. So, in this intended learning outcomes, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to state the relationship to society and schools, prove that schools transmit cultural values by stating facts from education history in the world and in the Philippines, explain the meaning of socialization as a function of schools. So, here are the quote of John Dewey, no? Ang isa siyang mga quote. So, read the quote from the famous John Dewey. When a school introduces and trains its child of society into membership thou within such a little community, saturating him with the spirit of service and providing him with instruments of effective self-direction, he shall have the deepest and best guarantee of a larger society which is worthy, lovely, and harmonious. So, sa quote or sa word ni John Dewey, so, ang function of schools, according to him, the school's core aims is to teach students to work together. No? Ang learners or students live in a democratic society, so dapat nga they should help to coordinate themselves. Because education man jud is very important. So, education or school is an institution created by society. Education is a function of society and as such arises from the nature and character of society itself. So, society seeks to preserve itself, and to do this, it maintains its functions and institutions, one of which is education, to assure its survival, stability, and convenience. So, yeah, education is a very important, no? Kanang very important siya sa ato ang society. Why, ma'am? Because education is a social institution through which a society's children are taught basic academic knowledge, learning skills, no? Maka-learn sila silang mga skills, and then also cultural norms, like kanang maka-learn sila sa mga beliefs, cultural norms, values, inana bitaw. So, every nation in the world is equipped daw. So, is equipped with some form of education system. Yeah. Through this system vary greatly. Diba? Sakto jud. Why is education man? Nga mga education is very important or importante siya sa institution of society. Because importante siya kay it helps people, it helps us become better citizens in the society, in our society. Get a better pay job, no? Makakuanta og ka na ang maay nga trabaho, dako na sweldo, shows the difference between good and bad. So, maka-learn ta nga bad ni siya, good ni siya, o angay ba ni siya buhaton or dili ba ni siya angay buhaton. So, education shows us the importance, jud, no, of hard work. Yes, it is, kung kanang education, jud, kailangan jud ni siya importance of hard work. And at the same time, it helps us grow and develop. Tinuod jud nga mo-grow yun ta through education, kung maka-learn tag something about education, we are kadang magatabang ni nato nga mo mas mo-grow pa ang ato ang learnings, ang ato ang knowledge, no, mas mo-grow pa, and ma-develop pa, maka-develop pa tag mga new ways, new things, and ma-develop ang ato ang knowledge. Thus, we are able to shape a better society to live in by knowing and respecting rights, laws, and regulations. So, importante jud kayo na makabalo to sa mga institutions, no, sa society nato, because para makabalo ta how to respect others' rights, kanang mga laws kabalo ta, mga laws nga but dili na to angay buhaton nga kanang ikadaot pud sa ato ug ikadaot pud also sa society, and also the regulations, no, follow jud tag kanang mga right, rules and regulations, and respect jud ta, because especially nga kanang kung samot na educated person ta, dapat jud na ato jud nang i-apply. So hangalang man siya diri nga ang education is a function of society. So, unsa may pagpasabot ana, what does it imply? So, education is a function of society. Kay the main purpose of kanang education is to educate. Katong gingon ganina nga i-educate ta as individuals within society to prepare a qualify them for work in economy, as well as to integrate people into society and teach them values and morals of society. So, mao to siya. Dapat very important jud kaayo nga maka-learn gyud ta, no? In order nga to grow and develop. Help us grow and develop. To have a better society as well. So, next, as John Dewey claimed, it is a school that introduces and trains each child of society into membership within such a little community, saturating him with the spirit of service and providing him with the instruments of effective self-direction. Dapat jud ka ng self-direction ka, self-directed person. When schools succeed to do this, in the words of Dewey, we shall have the deepest and best guarantee of a larger society, which is worthy, harmonious, and lovely. No? So, ang school gyud, it is the school gyud ang maoy mo train nato, mo introduce, dapat train nato, no, nga kanang mahimutang member sa ato ang society or community na maka-provide tag kanang maayo nga mga values and norms. Because in order for that nga maka-learn tag kanang kuan, mga inana nga mga thing, kung makasucceed ta ana, no, sa gikuan ni sa words ni Dewey, ni John Dewey sa iyang giingon. So, maangko nato ang best o kanang larger society nga naa ang kanang kuan ka worthy. So, nakay kapuslanan, and then kanang naang paghigugma lovely and harmonious as well. So, next. Sumaato siya. So, this is called the socialization process. Socialization is the process of learning the rules, statuses, and values necessary for participation in social institutions. Brinkerhoff, D. 1989. So, socialization is a lifelong process. It occurs primarily during early childhood, but as we progress from infancy to old age, we shed old roles and adopt new ones. Role learning and prepares us for future roles is termed anticipatory socialization. Because of anticipatory socialization, most of us are more or less prepared for our future roles like spouse, parent, professional, teacher. So, pag mingon ka og kanang socialization, so kabalo naman gyud ta what is socialization, no? Unsa ang socialization? Is kakabalo, understandable naman na, kabalo naman gyud ta, we're very familiar with that word, socialization. So, yeah, di ba siya dira nga socialization daw is a lifelong process, no, of social interaction through which people acquire knowledge of their culture. Di ba makakuan sila og kahibalo sa ilang culture. Sa pinaagi man sa socialization, guys, people can acquire a self-identity, ilang personality, and also the physical, as well as the mental and social skills. So, ang socialization da ay pod is a dual process siya. Why man? Nga dual process man siya sila. Ano man? So, what does it mean? Sabot pasabot ana. A dual process siya because ang ubang tawo makasocialize sa atua ug kita pod makasocialize pod ta nila. For example, interacting with friends and family. No? Through socialization, we can learn how to interact our family, friends, being told to obey rules, no? Being rewarded for doing course, di ba? Musunod jud ta og kanang moobey gitag mga rules. Og kanang being rewarded for doing course and being taught how to behave in public places. So mao ni sila ang mga example or usa sa mga example sa socialization. Kanang kabalo ta mo-interact kanang sa ato ang friends, kabalo ta mo-socialize, di ba? It is very important especially now no nga kanang we are in the kanang phase of online class na ata sa online class karon. So students and teachers are kanang dapat jud maka-interact sila no. So kabalo man jud ta nga lisod jud kaayong ato ang na-encounter karon, but we still can socialize, we still can interact through virtual na through kuan lang, chatting online lang. And it is very important for us to be updated ta. And that enable a person to function within his or her culture. Diba? So, kung maingon tag ka ng anticipatory socialization, anticipatory ka na bitang the feeling you get when you know what is coming. Kana bitaw, gets ra? So, inana siya. So, because of anticipatory socialization, most of us more or less prepared for our future roles like spouse, parent, professional, teacher. So, gumasa ka ng anticipatory socialization, so kita mas kanang more kita ma-prepared na gyud ta nga kabalo na gyud ta nga kanang mahimo na tapuhon o kanang naanatay kanang spouse, kanang kapikas, parent, professional, teacher. So, feel na to nga kanang katong giingon nga the feeling you get when you know what is coming. So next is, so the family is the most important agent of socialization. Psychology tells us that the self-concept formed during childhood has lasting consequences. Besides, the parents' religion, social class, and ethnicity influence the child's social rules and self-concept, which in turn influence the expectations that others have for the child, and they determine the groups with which the child will interact outside the family. So yes, family is usually considered to be the most important agent of socialization. Why? Because they not only teach us how to care for ourselves. Wala lang na sila, atong family, wala lang sila nag-teach sa ato ang saon pag care sa atong self, but also give us our first system of values. Sila sab ang kanang una nga gahatag na to, gatudlo na to og maayong mga pamatasan, no? Mga attitudes, mga characters nato. So dira gikan sa family, sa ato ang family jud. Mga norms and beliefs. So family are the ones who are our first teachers about life. Yes, of course. Tinuod jud. Kay diara sila dira ta una nakakatun og mga maayong pamatasan, no? Dira tagikan nagkat-on sa ilaa, adisir sa schools, adisir sa uban. Diba? We'll learn to love and hate. Yes. Nurture and ignore our families do. For example, kanang if your family is very kanang konsentidor bitaw kayo, kung usa mo nakita sa kanang imong family, kung usa ang inyong kanang binuhatan sa imong family, inana nga kung konsentidor kayo ka bisag kabalo gud ka nga kabalo gud ang imong family nga kanang sayop nimo then gikonsenti ka na konsentidor bitaw kaayo nga di jud madawat nga imong sayop, and then ikaw pud nga child might gain those konsentidor thing. Ma-apply sad to nimo nga kanaang batasan no nga mao gud imo ang na-learn, mao gud imo nakita sa imong family, and then ikaw po mismo ma-apply po na nimo kay mao man ang naa sa imong environment, mao man ang naa sa imong surroundings, di ba? So dapat jud nga sa atong family is kanang makita gyud nato nga na ang pagrespeto, no, na ang paghigugma, love, respect, kanang kanang dapat generosity gid kayo tan makita nato kay kung mao po na ang nakita sa children, sa mga students, or sa mga anak, sa ilang family. And then, ma-apply po na nila when they interact outside, no? Outside the country, bisag ahap na sila moabot, basta kay, kung naa ka na nga characteristics, kung naa na sa imong family, ma-apply na nimo siya. No, bisan asa ka mo, adto. So, next. So, the school is also an important agent of socialization. It is an institution charged by society to impart specific knowledge and skills necessary for functioning in a society. They are also charged with the task of transmitting society's cultural values. Yes, ang pangkaduhan na kanang importante sa agent of socialization is that the school. Yes, kay pangkaduha man jud na, first is ang atong family. Dira ta makakaton sa atong family kinaunhan og mga maayong pamatasan, di ba? And then kung kabulatan na nga maayong pamatasan, and then ma-apply sab nato na siya sa school, ma-learn sab nato na siya sa school. Mao nang importante jud ang school sa agent of socialization. So, schools are agents of socialization kay nga naman wala lang na siya ga-teach nato about subject knowledge, life skills, but also social skills. Ituluan tag social skills through our interactions with teachers, staff, and other students. No, so it is very important yun nga sa school palang daan nga makabalo na gyud ta mo interact, mo socialize sa ato ang teachers, staffs, and other students with the respect po siya pag-interact o pag-socialize. So, especially now nga, kanang naamang kanang online class man tano, so lisod kaayo man jud ta mo kanang interact sa ato ang teachers. So, pinaagi sa ato mga discussions, ina na maglisod pa ta, struggle kaayo ang life, kay naman ta sa pandemic manggod. Pero, dili na siya mao ang rason kay naaman ang mga virtual, mga online na karon. So we can also interact or socialize our teachers through online gihapon. So socialization is very important yun, especially in school. So next is education and primitive society. And primitive societies, where literate persons face the problem of survival in an environment that pitted them against natural forces and wild animals. To survive, human beings needed food, shelter, warmth, and clothing. To transform a hostile environment into one that is life-sustaining, humankind developed life skills that eventually become cultural patterns. So, kung maingon ta og kanang primitive society, so, unsa may pasabot og primitive? Ang pasabot ana kanang simple or prehistoric bitaw. So, primitive society means belonging to a society in which people live in a very simple way. No, simple way, gamay ra kay sila, small population ra gid kayo sila, usually without industries or a writing system. So, mga kanang gamay ra sila og kanang nahibal-an. So, may example po nato ni siya during the pre-colonial period. Diba sa pre-colonial period rather, ang education din nila dito is informal jud. Nga naman, because Yan, gituluan sila, but ang ilang papa, their fathers taught their sons how to look for food and other means of livelihood. And their mothers taught their girls to do the household chores. Mao na gitudlo. This education basically prepare their children to become good husband and wives. So katong gitudlo giteach sa ilang parents, sa father o sa ilang mother is para nato sila preparation for the future kung magminyo na sila bitaw nga andam na sila mangita sila og kanang pagkaon ng mga boys, mangita sila og mga pagkaon sa ilang family, and the girls na asa balay mga magbuhat og mga household chores. Ang kakuan lang sa ila ang anong informal because children were provided more vocational training but lesser academics. So kulang sila og kining learning, academic learning. So wala sila gituluan jud sa teachers nga kanang unsa jud nga na maayo inana. So kuan lang. Kulang sila ana. So, mao nang ang pre-literate person face the problem of survival in an environment that pitted them against natural forces and wild animals. So, kuan yun, no? Kanang kanang nag-face yun silang mga problems in order for them to survive. Kanang makakuan sila og food, no? Shelter, warmth, and clothing. Pinaagi sila ang maghagop pa sila hunting sa mga animals para makita sila og makakaon sila nana. So kung may pre-literate person katutong katong ganina nga gamay ra kay silag nahibalaan, gamay ra silag mga learnings, no, pero ara pa sa pre-colonial period nga mga na kulang silag academic learnings nana. So to transform a hostile environment into one that is life-sustaining, human can develop life skills that eventually become cultural patterns. So kato sa una nga ang kadong kultura nila sa una nga maot na kultura nila sa una na panunod gihapon siya antud karon, but na siya improvisation na-improve na. Because high-tech naman ta karon, naman tay mga technology. So napun-an ang ilang skills, no? Napun-an ang ilang skills. So mao na siya ang cultural patterns. So mao na siya, these life skills include tool or instrument making, adherence to the moral behavior code of group life and language. So for this education cultural patterns to continue, the adults had to teach these skills and values to their children. Diba? Kung ma-continue ning cultural patterns no nga kanang naakaron na, so the adults had to teach. So sila na pud ang kanang motudlo og mga bag-ong mga skills, mga values sa ilaang children in the future. Ng children puhon. So this is socialization. Mao ni siya ang function of education in the society. So this is also informal education in action. So kuan gihapon siya, informal siya kay kanang naka-learn raman sila through their sa ilaarang kultura, sila ang parents, sa ilang family. But kanang wala gyud sila sa school jud mismo nag-learn. So as abstract thinkers, human beings could create, use, and manipulate symbols. They could communicate with one another through gestures, sounds, and words. These symbols were expressed in signs, pictographs, and letters. So sa batubol naman yun kaayo ni siya. So next is this table, no, points of emphasis on education and history. So this table is the key periods in educational history. So 1000 BC to AD 1600. So another historical group or period. So basahon nang nako ni siya, no. Educational goals, curriculum, agents, influences on Western education. So in historical group, of period, there are seven. The one is primitive societies, 7,000 BC to 5,000 BC. Educational goals nila is to teach group survival skills, to cultivate group cohesiveness. Practical skills of hunting, ang ilang mga curriculum, no? Food gathering, stories, myths, songs, poems, dances. Ang agents is parents, tribal, elders, and priests. Emphasis on the role of informal education in transmission of skills and values. Ilang influences na siya on Western education. The next is Greek. Educational goals to cultivate civic responsibility and identity with city-state. Athenian, to develop well-rounded persons. Spartan, to develop soldiers and military leaders. So their curriculum, Athenian, reading, writing, arithmetic, drama, music, physical education, literature, poetry. Spartan, real military songs and tactics. Aegeans, for Athens, private teachers and school sophist philosophers. Sparta, military teachers, drill sergeants. For influences on Western education, the concept of the well-rounded, liberally educated person. Sparta, the concept of the military state. And then, for the Roman, the educational goals to develop sense of civic responsibility for public and then empire to develop administrative and military skills. Reading, writing, arithmetic, laws of 12 tables, law, philosophy, curriculum. And for the agents, private schools and teachers, schools of rhetoric. Influences on Western education for Roman, emphasis on ability to use education for practical administrative skills, relating education to civic responsibility. Tunapad rin, no? Arabic, medieval, Renaissance of Reformation. For Arabic, to cultivate religious commitment to Islamic beliefs, to develop expertise in mathematics, medicine, and science. Ang ilang curriculum, reading, writing, mathematics, religious, literature, scientific studies. Agents, mosques, court schools, Arabic numeral and compilation, interclassical materials, resource, and medicine. And for medieval, their educational goals is to develop religious commitment, knowledge, and ritual to reestablish social order to prepare person for appropriate rules. For curriculum, reading, writing, arithmetic, liberal arts, philosophy, theology, crafts, military tactics, and chivalry. Parish, chantry, and cathedral, schools, universities, apprenticeship, og knighthood. Ilang influences, establishing the structure, content, and organization of the university as a major institution of higher education, the institutionalization and preservation of knowledge. So in primitive societies, survival agents, natural forces was the need, and so what were taught were survival skills and values to cultivate group cohesiveness. And for the Athenian in ancient Greece, what mattered most in education was the rounded development of every individual, while for the Spartan, it was the development of soldiers, and military leaders. For the early Romans, schools needed to develop a sense of civic responsibility and to develop administrative and military skills as citizens of the Roman Empire. And for the ancient Arabic world, where Islamic rose, the most important concern of education was to cultivate religious commitment to Islamic beliefs. During the medieval period, schools were concerned with the development of religious commitment, knowledge, and ritual to establish order. So Renaissance period was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. Education was focused on the rediscovery of classical philosophy, literature, and art. The Reformation period had as for its educational goals the cultivation of a sense of commitment to a particular religious denomination and general literacy. Maana siya. So the story of the Philippine education system. So as you study the summary of the Philippine educational system, just remember the sociological concept which is the focus of this chapter. That education is a function of society and as such what are taught in schools arise from the nature and character of society itself. What society considers important is what schools teach. No? Ang education ko no, mao'y function sa society. Ug unsa ang ilang gitudlo sa schools mao pod ang mo arise or ma-develop sa atong nature and character of society itself. So what society considers important, so mao pod ang itudlo sa what schools teach. Unsa pod mao pod ang itudlo sa school. So next reporter.
The history of the Philippines educational system. As you study the summary of the Philippine educational system, just remember this sociological concept which is the focus of this chapter. The education is a function of society, and as such, what are taught in schools arise from the nature and character of society itself. What society considers important is what schools teach. Let us also see how the nature and character of Philippine society are reflected in education process in different periods of Philippine history, such as the pre-colonial period, the Spanish period, the American regime, the Japanese occupation, and lastly, the post-colonial period. So let's start with the education during the pre-colonial period. During the pre-colonial period, education was informal and unstructured. The children were provided more vocational training but lesser academics. So during na time sa pre-colonial period is kasagara ang mga bata is ginatudluan og more vocational like ginatudluan sila sa ilang mga ginikanan og panginabuhi like sewing, like doing the household chores. So during the pre-colonial period is more nila ginatudlo ang vocational na activity kaysa sa mga academics. Next one is education during the Spanish era. Education was formal and organized. Instruction was religion-oriented. So during the Spanish era, ang education is naghinay-hinay na siya og ka-develop, like was formal and organized siya. So during that time is ginatudlo na sab nila ang religion, like ginatudlo na nila ang Christian doctrines, ang music, ang music and sacred songs like how to pray, mga confession and communion. Diri na time is ginatudlo na more sa Spanish era, ginatudlo na more ang all about sa religion. So kining nga education during the Spanish era is under ni siya sa law sa the Commonwealth Decree of 1886. This law gave Filipinos a complete system of education from elementary to the college level. So kini nga law is gina-provide gina-provide nila ang complete education from elementary, secondary to the tertiary or college or mga universities. The third one is education during the American regime 1898 to 1946. So, the Americans promoted democratic ideals and the democratic way of life. When we say democratic is freedom. Freedom ni siya sa mga tao, ruled by people. Next one is a system of free and compulsory elementary education was established by the Malolos Constitution. So, kining Malolos Constitution is sila ang mga nag-enumerate sa national na mga rights sa mga Filipino. For example, ano is right to education. So, the next one is that the Department of Public Institution set up a 3-level school system. So, kining Department of Public Institution is sila to ang set up. Sila ang nag-set up sa 3-level. When we say 3-level is from elementary to secondary to the college or universities or what we call tertiary level. So there is the Commonwealth period 1935 to 1942. Diri gina-implement na sab nila ang free education, vocational education also emphasize nationalism, good manners and discipline, the Institute of Private Education. So, mano ni diri gina-implement na nila ang free education which is na usa karon na naka-benefits ang mga estudyante sa mga free education. Next one is vocational education. Mao ni akong giingon na katong mga household chores like sewing, cooking, farming, ingon ana. So the next is education also emphasize nationalism. Diri na period ay ang education is gina-emphasize nilang education, ginahatagan nilang importance ang mga national heroes like ang Jose Rizal, life and works ni Jose Rizal, like mga heroes sa Philippines. So good manners and discipline. So dire ginatudlo na sab og hinay ang good manners, ang how to respect, how to the hospitality, how to socialize everyone, how to like how to show your good manners, like hinahinay na ka og disiplina. The last one is the Institute of Private Education. So diri mga private education is gina-establish na nila ang private education, dili lang sa mga public. The fourth one is the Japanese occupation, diffusion of elementary education and promotion of vocation education. So during the Japanese period is ginaspread na nila ang vocation education from elementary, like katong mga household chores like sewing, like katong sewing ginatudlo na nila sa elementary on like kanang striving for the diffusion of the Japanese language in the Philippines and determination of the use of English in schools. So diri is gina-spread po nila ang dili lang ang Japanese language, ang gina-practice tasab nila ang mga English language, ilabi na sa mga private schools, diba kasagara ang mga inistoryahan sa private schools is mga English kasagara. So dili lang Japanese language ang gina-implement nila ani na period kun apil na pod ang English language. So the last one is the post-colonial Philippines. Education aimed at the full of realization of the democratic ideals and the way of life. So diri is ginatudlo na ang mga information like democratic ideas like kanang mga on how to live like the way sa life sa usa ka individual. Diri ginatudlo na nila ginatudlo pud nila ang daily flag ceremony diri sa corona time gina-implement na nila ang mga flag ceremony in every schools, diba? Curricular offerings in all schools. So when we say curriculars is for example katong works ni Jose Rizal, which is the Nole Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Diri na time sa post-colonial period is gina-implement na nila ang unsa ang life ni Jose Rizal, or ginapa-study sa mga estudyante from elementary to the college level. So imagine from informal to formal to complete system to free education. Ang hangtod karon daghan na kayong mga developments, diba, ang mga education. So speaking of other developments na here's the some I listed, which is the integration of values in all learning areas. Integration meaning gina-unite na nila, integration of values in all learning areas, gina-unite nila ang giusa na nila ang mga learnings. CHED is responsible for higher education under Republic Act 7722, Higher Education Act of 1994. So diri ang CHED is more responsible na sila sa ilang mga. The next one is the governance of basic education under Republic Act of 991-55. So diri sa governance of basic education act is diri ga-compose ni siya og mga division offices, mga division offices, mga regional offices, mga division offices, mga district offices, mga schools. K-12 program, Republic Act, under Republic Act 105-33 on May 15, 2013. So kini na program is usa ko sa naka-benefits ani na program. So, kini na program is nag-compose na siya to provide sufficient time for mastery of concepts and skills gina-advance, gina-practice sa mga estudyante to develop their learnings to prepare graduates for tertiary education, middle level skills develop employment and entrepreneurship. So overall, ang education sa una hangtod karon is nagadevelop na gid siya daghan na kaayo siya daghan na implement para matudluan og tarong to educate the learners well. So those are the history of the Philippine educational system.
To produce thoughtful graduates embed with first, values reflective of a humanist orientation. This talks about fundamental respect for others as human beings with intrinsic rights, cultural rootedness, a vocation to serve. Second, analytical and problem-solving skills. Third, the ability to think things through the ethical and social implication of a given source of action. And fourth, the competency to learn continuously throughout life. This will help us isip usa ka learners mo niyang magtabang sa tuwa because this will enable us to live meaningfully in a complex, rapidly changing, and globalized world while engaging our community and the nation's development issues and concern according to Commission on Higher Education or CHED. DepEd Vision or Panglantaw. We dream of Filipinos who passionately love their country and whose values and competencies enable them to realize their full potential and contribute meaningfully to building the nation. It is very understandable na kayo, no? Kabalo ko nga naa na pud mo idea about aning DepEd Vision. DepEd Mission or TUMO. To protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education where students learn in a child-friendly o maabi-abihon, gender-sensitive, pagiging sensitibo sa kasarian, safe, and motivating environment. Teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Sila ang magiya sa mga learners or estudyante. Administration and staff as stewards of the institutions ensure and enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen, while family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibility for developing lifelong learners. Core values: makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, at makabansa. It is very understandable naman, no? The importance of studying history of education. Do we explain why a study of the history of education is valuable? First, educational issues and problems are often rooted in the past. The study of educational history can help us to understand and solve today's problems. So it means, ang educational issues o problema nagsugod pa gyud sa una ug ang pag-study nato karon sa educational history mao'y makatabang sa ato sa pagsabot ug sa pagsulbad pud sa atong mga problema karon. Second, realistic effort to reform education begin with present conditions which are a product of our past. By using our past, we can shape the future. So it means, kung gamito nato ang past, we can shape or explore sa future. Third, the study of education's past provides a perspective that explains and illuminates our present activities as teachers.
So that's it, guys. So what is the takeaways that we can learn or get from this chapter, historical foundation of education? So mao na siyang mga takeaways nga makuha nato or ma-learn nato. Education and school are a function and a creation of society. So goals in education reflect what society considered as necessary for survival, stability, and convenience. And also, study of the story of education, no, in the world and in the Philippines helps us see what societies in the past considered important, enables us to appreciate the present, which is the product of the past. Schools are agents of socialization. They prepare individuals for their varied roles in society. So, mo ni ang mga takeaways ng ato ang ma-apply or ma-learn or makuha. I have here the activity. So don't worry. I will send it to our GC later. Ako na ni siyang isend sa atong GC para klaro siya. So according to Dr. Michelle Bingstone, when the world says give up, hope whispers try it one more time, because for with God nothing shall be impossible. Thank you and God bless everyone.